Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll begin with the invocation, being led by Reverend Peter Ernst from the Manzanita Baptist Church, and then we will follow with the Pledge of Allegiance, being led by Supervisor Gary Watson.
Shall we pray? Father God, we're thankful this morning for the liberties which we enjoy in this great land. Thank you, God, for Mohave County and for those that serve us. We pray, Lord, for this meeting that you would bless each one of the county supervisors. We do pray, Lord, that you would give wisdom. And Lord, and especially in this time of the year, we just want to say thank you for your provision, for your blessings, for your abundant care over us and to us. So, Lord, just bless this time, we pray. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. You follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and I'll now ask for a motion for an executive session to be held on January the 4th, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. or at the conclusion of the regular meeting, whichever is later, for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431.03A, 3 and 4, to discuss items noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
So moved.
Second the motion.
Okay, I forgot to verify that we have our supervisors on the telephone. Supervisor Johnson, are you there?
Yes, Madam Chair.
And Supervisor Moss, are you there?
Uh-oh.
Supervisor Moss, are you on the phone? Okay, we'll give that just a minute and see if we can connect Supervisor Moss. Supervisor Moss, are you there?
I'm here.
All righty. Have you been able to hear us?
No, it was completely blank until just now.
All right. I just called for a motion action to call for an executive session to be held January the 4th, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to the official business to come before the board. We'll start with item number 1, discussion and pending or contemplated litigation claims and demands. Attorney Ekstrom, do we have anything?
Madam Chairman, there's no need for an executive session this morning.
Okay, thank you. And then do we have any committee or legislative reports, starting with Supervisor Watson?
I have none this morning.
Supervisor Angus?
None this morning.
Supervisor Moss?
None today.
And Supervisor Johnson?
I have a little update from Quad State, but I'll do it at the next meeting.
I only understood part of that. You said you do have a report?
It's on Quad State. We had our meeting, but I'll get the information out by next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. County Administrator, you have a report.
I have no report today, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the November 2nd, 2015 and November 16th, 2015 Board of Supervisors regular meeting minutes and the approval of the November 18th, 2015 and December 1st, 2015 Board of Supervisors special meeting minutes.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Angus, a second by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we'll now go to the call to the public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request to speak form located in the back of the room prior to this meeting. Action taken as a result of public comments will be limited and restricted to items not on the regular agenda with the exception of the consent agenda and must relate to matters within the jurisdiction of the board. See, I do have 3 people signed up for the call to the public, and we'll start with Mr. Lance Buckhammer. If you'll come forward and give us your name and address and tell us what's on your mind, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is my first rodeo, so that's why I'm nervous. So I'd like to make a formal appeal for the $500 reward from Erase for what I know for a fact of the Wildcat dumper. I assisted Detective Kevin Hartman from catching earlier this year. However, his report, case number 2015-0012, is incomplete and inaccurate. The incident narrative doesn't take into account for the evidence of the Wildcat dumper, because the individual admitted to Detective Hartman that he was responsible for this garbage, and the excuse he gave was that was his property, that was his private land, which I since proved to Detective Hartman it was not. It was a public land. That's a long story in itself. But, the reason why I feel I'm entitled for that erase reward was there was no legitimate reason I can think of for Detective Hartman to forward the case to the Bureau of Land Management when, according to the state statutes and the county ordinance, like where it says, like, quote, criminal littering statutes do not fully address the scope of the littering problems in Mohave County. So I could help enforce that. 43 CFR 8365.1-7, state and local laws. State and local laws and ordinances shall apply and be enforced by the appropriate state and local authorities. This includes, but is not limited to, state and local laws and ordinances governing, and one of the items, littering. This is very interesting. On the Pine Springs grazing allotment, there are 4 signs citing the Arizona law on criminal littering. So I guess I ran out of time.
All right, thank you very much for speaking, and I'll refer that back to staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right, our next speaker is Kathleen Mischler. Good morning. Please state your name and address.
Good morning. Kathleen Mischler from Golden Valley, Arizona. I'm going to talk about the NSP that we spoke about last week. I was kind of curious about the program because I'd never heard of it before. So I got some information, and it was a grant that was approved in 2011 and ended 2014. It was required by the federal government that all those funds be spent within 3 years. So I was kind of curious why we were still discussing it a year and a half later after the program ended. Let's see, so they spent all the money, and it was 20 homes that were bought in Kingman, Lake Havasu, and Bullhead City. They bought 20 homes. There was no progress report for the last year and a half. So I called Mr. Wolf, and he administers the grant, and he admitted that he was woefully behind on reports. And in actuality, the website shows 20 homes sold. They're occupied. 5 homes were sold in the last 4.5 years. So we still own, the county still owns 15 homes. Let's see, oversight for the grant was given to the county administrator at the time it was given by the board. And what I'm here to request is that we get some kind of progress report and an updated action plan. I own property in one of these neighborhoods that this program was targeted, and the purpose of the grant was to sustain property values in the neighborhood with high foreclosures. And as far as I can see, it only saved the value of 20 homes the county bought. My biggest question is if the county is at risk for any kind of eventual costs for the remaining 15 homes. So an action plan or a progress report would probably answer all these questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker that's signed out of forum is Mr. Stephen Robinson.
I'm Stephen Robinson, 3439 North Bowie Road in Golden Valley. Chairman Bishop, supervisors, staff, I'm here to address action by the board 5 years ago, October. They approved two ordinances, 2010-12 and 2010-13. They were the kennel ordinances. Everybody knows what happened in 2012 was that there was an election that solidly defeated the ordinance, and both of those ordinances were virtually identical. However, one was in the health department, the other one was in the zoning department ordinance. The ordinance that was listed in the initiative was only 2010-12. The public overwhelmingly voted, 55% of the people voted against that ordinance going into place, and 45% voted for. I was completely surprised then when this whole issue with the mobile home age restriction came up, and I looked in section now 37M, or J, I can't remember which, and I found that the zoning ordinance is still in effect. And so I addressed the issue at the call to the public for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I was given some information, and I have the packet that I thank Ms. Ballard for. But what was interesting was in April of 2013, the zoning ordinance list showed that ordinance had been also revoked, 2010-13, had also been revoked in addition to the health department ordinance. I had the list, I had downloaded it back in April of 2013. But now it shows it in place. That ordinance took a third of a paragraph defining kennels and veterinary clinics and made it 6 full pages of ordinances and rules and regulation that were subsequently amended twice by the end of 2010. And my thought and belief is that I think this should be addressed because the voters overwhelmingly rejected the virtually identical language for the health department. And I think it would be incumbent upon us to go ahead and follow the will of the voters and remove that zoning ordinance and take it back to the original 1/3 page that it was, or at least do some seriously restrictions, because it is still illegal for someone owning a full section of land, according to the zoning ordinance, to have 5 dogs. If you look any land parcel over 2.5 acres, there is still a limit in the ordinance of 4 dogs. And I think the voters said, get rid of the ordinance. And so I encourage you to have staff review it and take a look at this thing because the voters have spoken. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a presentation this morning that's from the GEO group, the Arizona State Prison here in Kingman, and the Arizona Department of Corrections. So gentlemen, the floor is yours, and we look forward to seeing your presentation.
Good morning to the Board of Supervisors, citizens of Kingman. My name is James Black. I am the Vice President of the Western Region of the GEO Group, Inc. Our company is a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol of GEO. We have recently taken over the Kingman facility from the previous operator, MTC. We've been in business now, opening it for about 2 months. We've actually been open and taking over the operation for the past month. To my left is the warden of the facility, Jeff Wrigley, who is overseeing the day-to-day operation. And to my right is Mr. Ron Credio from the Arizona Department of Corrections, who's second in charge of the contract bed unit that oversees our operation. And we just wanted to spend a few minutes just to tell you who we are and what we're doing. We're new in your community. While you've probably seen us running up and down your streets and eating in your fine restaurants and making new and good friends, we felt that the board did not know who we were, and we wanted to make sure that everyone knew who we were and that we are the new operator of the prison. We want to do everything in our power to erase the negative stigma that goes with it, and we are hard at work at doing that. We are a publicly traded company since 1984. In my region alone, Kingman was the 17th facility that we have. We operate over 68 facilities in the United States. We operate 3 facilities outside of the United States in South Africa, England, and Australia. We are moving towards getting away from corrections and detention and finding more creative ways to stop the revolving door on crime. I encourage you to look at our website, geogroup.com, for more information regarding who we are. I don't want to bore you with it here at your meeting, but I feel comfortable saying that we're going to be a great provider, a great friend, a great neighbor, and we want to become a part of this community. It's something that we do every city that we go to. Jeff will be out and about. He'll be a part of many of your various clubs. We've already started finding new things that we can support in the community, and we think that in the long run, we'll be a great partner to the city and to the county. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wrigley to talk just briefly about some of the day-to-day things that have gone on and where we are in reopening the facility under GEO. Jeff?
Yes, sir, Mr. Black. Thank you. And Madam Chair and board members, thank you for allowing us to make a brief presentation to you. Well, at the facility, currently the inmate count is just over 2,300. The Serbat unit is just about full. The Wallapai unit, last week on Tuesday, we received 328 inmates there, and it's gone very, very smoothly. And one thing I would say about the staff there, they're just outstanding. They have great work ethic, real knowledgeable about policy, and they have great attitude. So it's a real privilege for me to absorb that kind of staff. And we have about 110 vacancies, but we've been actively recruiting. We currently have an academy of 43 cadets that graduate January 11. We start our next academy December 28, and so we're just continuing recruitment, and we've been doing a lot of interviewing and hiring. What Mr. Black talked about in the community, we want to be the best neighbor possible. We want to be the best partner for the citizens with the citizens of Mohave County, partner with the Arizona Department of Corrections and all the citizens of Arizona. Later this morning, we'll be issuing a check, which Mr. Black approved, to the Salvation Army for $2,500. We've already donated to the Boys and Girls Club, and we'll continue. The previous company, I think, did have a real good amount of fundraisers, inmate activities, and inmates working in the community. That certainly will continue, and we hope to expand on that with some additional contracts which would be signed between the Arizona Department of Corrections and organizations in Mohave County. And we'll expand on that, and we will be involved, the staff, very much in the community. So far, I've just had an opportunity to attend one chamber meeting, but we will be very active in the community. We want to be great partners and neighbors. Yes.
Thank you. We'd be more than happy to take any questions. We don't want to interrupt your session, but if anyone had any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Mr. Credio would speak for the department. Ron, did you have anything that you'd like to state? Or?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Department of Corrections embraces this relationship with GEO. We are already in a partnership with 3 other GEO facilities that house our inmates. So we welcome them, very responsive incorporation to the needs of the public, inmates, and staff for the department. So I'm basically here to answer any direct questions relative to the Department of Corrections if you guys have.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of the supervisors have any questions? And we'll start with Supervisor Johnson on the phone.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep it short, but I mean, it's nice that GEO is going to get involved in the community, but I think most of us are worried about the security at that prison, and this goes to the state oversight and to GEO. The previous MTC had, proficiency ratings in the 90s, and they still had problems out there. Can GEO and the state say that they are going to strengthen the security out there and start treating it as a prison, as not as a day camp?
Thank you for your question. I can tell you that we've already begun strengthening security. There were some things that we looked at that we just simply do different than other companies. Being a publicly traded company, you have to always take care of your reputation. So we may go to the nth degree in finding ways and means to make sure that, number one, the staff and inmates are safe, and number two, that they stay inside the facility, and number three, that they behave. However, I can tell you after doing this for 32 years that bad things happen in good prisons. You can put every effort you can forward to prevent things from happening, but when you have 3,400 inmates and 600 staff, things are going to happen. It's no different than some of the things that happen, unfortunately, in our schools and anywhere you have a large contingent of people in one place. But we have put our best foot forward to make sure. We've hired some of the best people that we could possibly hire. When I was considering overseeing this operation, I tried to find the best possible warden I could. This is all I could come. No, not really. Jeff Wrigley is a veteran operator with 30-plus years in the Bureau of Prisons. He was my former number 2 in my regional office before he decided to retire. And we coaxed him and threatened him into coming back. But Jeff has more energy and more experience and probably has forgotten things about corrections that I'm just learning. He'll be great. We put together an all-star team from across this region, and I'm very comfortable and confident in the leadership that we have.
And to speak on the state, we've enhanced our monitoring team with 1 additional correctional officer 3, a lieutenant, and an assistant deputy warden. So they will take part in the team up in Kingman permanently, so they'll become a member of your community to help oversee the GEO company.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else, Supervisor Johnson?
That's all, Madam Chair.
All right, Supervisor Moss, would you like to ask any questions?
I'd just like to make a quick comment and just let them know that I really appreciate the improvements that they're attempting to make to security. I believe that will be greatly appreciated by the residents of Mohave County. And for my own sake, I'd like to also say welcome to Mohave County and thank you for visiting with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Angus?
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming here this morning and introducing yourself, and welcome to the community. And I think my question was answered by Department of Corrections. We wanted to make sure that, it's nice to bring in new companies and start fresh, but the problem a lot was the oversight. And so you're saying that you have people who are going to be working alongside this private company, and so the reporting and the oversight will be ramped up, because that was the problem that we believe was lacking in the last one. So good luck to you all, and thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And Supervisor Watson?
Good morning and welcome to Mohave County. I'm certainly glad to have you here. I'm hoping that we can create a relationship between your company, Mohave County, and an informational guideline through our sheriff's office. If you can make that outreach and make that happen, I'll be a happier camper. When the prison was first proposed years ago, the proposal was for prisoners that were of lighter sentencing. And so over the years, we've seen that dramatically change, and the attitude of the public has become a great deal more suspicious. So I think in opening those communication lines would help a great deal. And certainly working with our sheriff would certainly help you folks. So with that, welcome.
And I can speak on the sensing structure for the inmates that are housed up here in Kingman. Specifically, the Wallapai unit, there will be no escape on record for the inmate, no lifers, no inmates with 20 or more years to serve will be housed up in Kingman.
Great.
And if I could, one of the first things you do when you come into any county is you go see the sheriff. We've already done that. Had lunch with him. Great man, great team, and we're only going to increase that. Law enforcement is a unique bunch, and once you have them on your side, those middle of the night things that happen, you feel a little bit better. So we've already met with the sheriff, the chief, and several other city and county leaders as well.
Great.
Please.
And if I could just add a brief comment that in addition to the sheriff and other law enforcement folks, we want to have community relations meetings at least once a quarter, which we would host at the prison, or we could do them somewhere else if people in the county prefer that. But we will be sending out invitation letters in early January to host a meeting in mid-January in which it would be law enforcement, but we want folks, we'll invite all of you, of course, and folks from a broad spectrum of the Mohave County community.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and I want to echo the other supervisors in welcoming you to Mohave County, and I just want you to know that as a retired law enforcement officer, I want to be on your speed dial as well. Right after you call our sheriff, I would appreciate a call as well, since the prison is in my district, so if you could make that happen, I would be very appreciative.
We absolutely will make that happen and hope we never have to call you for anything.
I hope you never have to call me. And the only other thing that I've heard from my constituents is they are concerned about the sexual offenders being housed in our prison, but that's the only thing negative that I have personally heard, and we have to have some place to house those prisoners, and I understand when they're released, they won't be released into our communities, and I appreciate that very much. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
All right, we'll be moving on to the consent agenda now. The items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. Starting with Supervisor Johnson, do you have any items that you would like to have removed?
30 and 31.
All right, Supervisor Moss, do you have anything?
None.
Supervisor Angus and Watson.
None this morning.
All right, may I have a motion to approve items 5 through 37 minus 30 and 31?
So moved.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion by Supervisor Angus, seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we'll go on to item number 30.
Motion discussed.
Okay, item number 30, approve the certificate of clearance to abate taxes on uncollected personal property in the amount of $125.04. Total principal tax, $72.30. Interest, $52.75. Okay, Supervisor Johnson, did you want to speak on this?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm curious why this is from 2010 and 2011. Personal property taxes are due and payable the day they're due. We're now, 5 years down the road. This was, I'm guessing, a tow business from the name. It was a trailer that was sitting on the highway. I'm curious why we, it's this late a date and we couldn't find the trailer or at least get it off the tax rolls earlier.
Okay, County Treasurer Cox, would you like to address this question for Supervisor Johnson? And also for item 31 too, and we might as well look at both of those together. 31 is...
While you're on 31, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, 31, the location of that one if I'm correct, is now the ASU dorm. They obviously went through a sale, and we give this to the sheriff's department, and like I said, they're doing payable whatever date it is, so because it's personal property and we know it can disappear, so we should be going immediately to get our money or put a lien on the property. I'm curious how, that hotel is still there, but we're losing money. That's all I had. I don't know that Cindy can do it. I think it's with the sheriff's department.
That's correct.
All right. Ms. Cox?
We turn over all personal property delinquent taxes to the sheriff's office. And they collect them, and they let us know when they can't find the personal property. And then we ask for abatement.
But 4 years later, I mean, that's what's getting me. This is 2010, 2011. On those, they need to find them immediately, or, it's not going to show up miraculously. And the hotel, I'm curious, the hotel's still there.
I completely agree with you. I have only been treasurer since January of 2013, and I've done everything in my power to make sure that I have an appointed person, which I do now, for personal property that goes with the sheriff's office, one of the people that handles personal property there, and they physically visit the property, and when they don't find the personal property, we let the sheriff's office know, and they move forward on it.
That's all I had, Madam Chair. I keep seeing these things pop every once in a while, and we need to probably look at our, how we do it, because we took that away from the constables and gave it to the sheriffs. And we got to have something that works.
Okay, I understand and agree. We can refer this back to staff. What's your pleasure on these two items? Do you want to table them, or what's your pleasure?
I got a funny feeling the money, we're not going to get our money unless Ms. Cox thinks that we can get something out of the hotel. I'm sure the trailer's gone, but maybe we just look at the policy later.
I can take a look at that. I'm happy to report back to you as to what exactly happened on that item, whether it became real property, which often it does.
Yeah, you're probably correct. That's probably why, and I just changed it over.
But I would have to get with the assessor and make sure that that's the case. If you'd like me to bring that back, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
That's all I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion
Motion to approve items 30, 31.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Now moving on to the regular agenda. We have a discussion of possible action, reference a status update on the adoption of Mohave County Ordinance number 2015-08, adopting an amendment to the Mohave County zoning ordinance version effective December the 2nd, 2015, section 37F, 37G, and 37H to allow placement of manufactured homes manufactured after June 15th, 1976, and display and a fixed HUD label or a verifiable data plate. We do have several people signed up to speak on this item. The first one I'll give the floor to would be Mr. Curtis Wilson, or Shane as I know him. Good morning. Would you state your name and address,
Lady Chairman,
please?
members of the board. I'm with the Arizona Housing Association Northwest Chapter President, and we are really concerned about this. It's hurting a lot of people in Mohave County, and it's also hurting our taxes in Mohave County. And we hope that it all gets rescinded back to the way it was from June 15, 1976. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this has been tabled for 60 days.
I didn't hear you.
This was tabled by the Planning and Zoning Commission for 60 days.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carmen Johnson. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Johnson, 1162 South Drake, Golden Valley. I have more of a question. Why is this before you? I was given the impression that this would not be brought back until at least January. Are we trying to pass something that the board, the commission hasn't had a chance to act on? I'm in agreement with Shane that this should not hurt anybody, you know, and it is. At our board of, at the commissioners meeting, a gentleman brought forward in his presentation a mobile home that he was using to encourage others to put a ban on the older mobile homes. I'd like to submit to you a recent picture of the mobile home. I don't know if you can see it here very well.
If you could set it down on the table where that square is, they can zoom in on it for you. There you go.
This is a current picture. The one he had shown looked like it was something sitting in a junkyard. This is the most current. It was taken just a week ago. The property, as you can see, the mobile home has been improved upon. The yard is well maintained. And I will have to personally admit to being envy of a little chicken coop he has. It is the most adorable thing I've seen. This here is a picture, if I got the right place, it's a picture of the property he spoke of that he did not want to build his $250,000 home on because of the mobile home he had shown. As you can see, that is a garage with what looks like a mobile mother-in-law suite on it. There are also storage things from travel trailers. Not travel trailers, I'm sorry, but truck trailers. This here is a picture from the street of the gentleman's current property. You'll notice a lot of vehicles there, disabled vehicles. I have yet to seek permission from Northwest Liquidators, which is his neighbor, to get a closer view and determine whether or not it's their stuff or his. This is a Google map aerial survey. Mr. Buck, Supervisor Buck, or Commissioner Buck, had talked about putting a thing where you had to conform with what was in the neighborhood. Who wants to live next to that junkyard? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Mr. Lee Morgan. Please state your name and address, Mr. Morgan.
Lee Morgan, live in Kingman, Arizona. Other than that, thank you for letting me talk to you all. It's the first time I've seen any of you. I vote for you. That's about it. I figure you have the sense to do what's right. I'm 70 years old, didn't want to be here. Matter of fact, they've been talking about the mobile homes and stuff, but they're leaving out one thing, common sense. I expect you all should have it, but you wonder sometimes, you forget yourselves. You get a little far stretched out there, and you don't know how to get back in line like you should, you know. And, you know, everybody makes mistakes. This time, I know you put it off another 60 days. And what's it going to be, another 90 days after that? Meantime, my wife and I came here years and years before you even had half of this county. And it's ridiculous. So other than that, the thing is for me, I got no argument with this dogfight you all got going on except for one thing. My home is an older home. It's beautiful on the outside, it's beautiful on the inside, and it works for us. But let me tell you something. You all don't own me, and I owe 10 years on a mortgage. Now, I passed away here about 3 years ago and come back and got a new lease on life. I don't do much because I can't do anything, but I'll tell you what, you all got me out of the chair, you got me out here and down here, and let me tell you, I ain't happy with it. but I'm grateful for it. So it's a two-way street. I got a little war going on at home, but it goes this way. With this mortgage, what we're talking about, my house is wore out. They're not going to give me anything but for the property. And if I die again, permanent, my wife won't be able to sell that. They'll give her nothing for that house. She won't get a thing to live on. I live on a low fixed income. So does she. Even less now. She'd have to take somebody else to come and live with her. And that ain't going to happen. She'll go back with my daughters, but she'll have nothing to show for all this time. And y'all are wrong. So let me tell you something. You don't want me in this fight. And that's because I'll find out any way, any place I can put it to y'all. And let's face it, I don't want that, and neither do you. So I appreciate you, what you're doing for the county. But you know what? Get this fire company guy, the head of that. I could talk, but I'm getting out of time. Thank you for your time. Get them to put that thing on there, what they do. Other than that, thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. And just for the record, this is being brought back up just as a status update because I did ask for this to kind of be put on the fast track so that it could be brought back this meeting and approved. So that's the only reason for it being on the agenda. So I don't think we even need action on this. Is that right? We'll take no action on this, and we'll go on to the next item, which is starred number 39, discussion and possible action reference hiring the risk management director. Attorney Ekstrom, you said we did not need to go into executive session. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
We need to go in executive session.
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
We might not need to go in executive session, but we can on personnel issues.
What?
Correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Right. I would like to go into executive session.
Okay.
So I make a motion to go into executive session on item 39.
All right. We do have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll be returning to executive session and be back out shortly. All right, we'll call this meeting back to order. Can I confirm that Supervisor Moss and Supervisor Johnson are on the telephone?
I'm here.
Okay. Supervisor Johnson, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Item number 39, it was decided by the board that we would take no action and move on to item number 40. Discussion and possible action reference the board at their meeting of November 16, 2015, engaged in discussion regarding the reporting structure of the staff of OMB as well as the overall staffing structure of Mohave County, and directed the county administrator to bring back the reporting structure at some future date. This was continued from our December 7th meeting, and this is under your name, Mr. Hendricks, if you want to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and the Board of Supervisors. On September 8th, 2015, by a vote of 4-1, the board moved to move the 2 remaining OMB employees to the Treasurer's office at their current salary and direct that they report to the Treasurer with special consideration for Board of Supervisors projects. And what you asked me to do is to bring back the reporting structure. I've had staff prepare a org chart which actually shows that OMB, the 2 OMB employees are directly under the Treasurer's office. And I'm here to answer any questions. It is a slightly, the org chart is slightly modified because of your 3 years in office and some shuffling that has been done. I don't have any action or any recommended motion for this particular board item. If the board wants to review this, and I can bring it back to move to approve the new org chart or take any suggestions that you may have to make any further modifications to it. Thank you.
Okay, I do have a request from our treasurer. She'd like to speak on this item.
Good morning, supervisors. I apologize that I didn't say that the first time I showed up.
Good morning.
I just had a couple of things that I wanted to say that I felt were important. I have an entire sheet that I'm happy to put with your paperwork if you'd like as well. But the one thing that I feel is really important is that for reporting for projects that are not involving the Treasurer's office, I believe that it's proper for the for the analysts that came from OMB to report through the Treasurer's office to the board. But the treasurer, because we can inform the BOS of activities as needed, but for the treasurer-related analysis and projects, I believe that they should report directly to the chairman of the board. And that's for internal audit purposes. Just one of the things that I wanted to talk about. So I'm happy to provide you with this letter that I wrote up about what they're doing and what's going on, if you'd like that. Okay, thank you. I'll email that to you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor Angus, you have the floor.
The only question I have, the way that the org chart is set up, it appears that the elected officials still have to go through the county administrator and can't go directly to the Board of Supervisors, which used to be the way it was done, but with this board that had changed, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that and that that hasn't changed at all.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Supervisor Angus, we can modify that chart accordingly. You're absolutely right, and it should reflect that exact thing.
Okay, Supervisor Watson, do you have any input?
No further comment.
Okay, Supervisor Moss, do you have anything?
My take on it is that with the move, it's just the only slight adjustment would be if the board of supervisors has a project, we would give that instruction to OMB, and that OMB would have to, and we and OMB would have to keep the treasurer in the loop or some variation of that, just like we did when they were direct report when the county administrator was involved. So I think we just tweak it to plot or put the treasurer in the former position of the county administrator.
Okay, thank you. Did you understand all of that, Mike?
We can work on something and modify the chart accordingly.
All right, so it's my take that we'll take no action on this for now, and then move on to item number 41.
Can I talk on that item, Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I forget you? Supervisor Johnson, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I mean, I understand what Supervisor Angus is saying regarding the organization and the elected officials. It's not that they report to the manager or the administrator, but they deal with him for budget items and things like that. And all the electeds come to us whenever they have a problem anyway. It's not a big thing. My problem with the way OMB is structured now is, and I can see Ms. Cox's problem because she has two people in her department that she kind of has responsibility for and kind of doesn't. I would still think from the board's perspective, we should, if we're going to direct, if they work partly for the Board of Supervisors as a whole, the board should direct them as a whole to do projects, not individual supervisors, because I can see us having problems down the line. That's the only thing I had. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay, I can see that. Supervisor Angus, go ahead.
But when it was a OMB, when they were on their own, individual supervisors did that. So that would be even a change from the way we did it when they were on their own. Is that true?
I believe that, and I think that was causing us problems from the time it started. I think it needed to be, well, to begin with, it was done through the county manager. He gave them direction. It wasn't through us. They were there to help departments out, and it kind of morphed into being under the board when Gene left. But I just think you get into problems with, maybe not so much a problem, but you have no idea what they're doing. You know, you see a report coming out, and we don't get reports that some other supervisor directs to be done, but they're doing it under our authority.
Did you like it, Supervisor Johnson, because you've been here the longest, and so you've seen the most, the ways the OMB had reported. Do you think that the way it was done when they made reports to the board and when it was like that, do you think that was the best and most efficient way of doing it?
I didn't agree with it to begin with. And then once we decided that we thought we might be getting rid of them, I said, I see their value. If I don't think that the board has enough jobs for them to do to make it worthwhile just to have them, doing work for us. But the manager does have requests from other elected officials that we could support by saying, hey, can they come in here and evaluate this, or can they help us with that? I think they're a very good arm to have. And I just think if they go through us, then we do it as a group, say, okay, let's do it. Or if they went through the administrator, because he does it by himself.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I just wanted to make sure that when OMB is working on a project as requested by a supervisor, that information be given through the entire board. It would be unwise for a board member to make a request to OMB and not get that information to the rest of the board. So if we can make sure that that happens, I'd be much more comfortable with OMB working directly with the board and with the treasurer, as long as everybody knows what they're working on, when they're working on it, and the parameters of what they're working on. That's my only comment.
I would agree with that. All right. So, County Administrator, you've got your work cut out for you. Right. Okay. Moving on then to discussion and possible action, reference the donation, long-term lease, or possible land swap or sell of property described in the attached backup of the City of Kingman. This was continued by the board at our December 7th, 2015 meeting, and it's under Gary Watson's name, and we do have two people signed up to speak, so I think I'll let them speak first, and then I'll turn the floor over to you, Supervisor Watson. And we'll start with James Gouliet. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind, James.
James Giat, 2600 Fairgrounds Boulevard is the address of the fairgrounds. Good morning, supervisors. Thank you for letting me speak this morning. First off, I'd like to say personally, as the manager of the Fair Association, I am personally in favor of having the fire department on our property. I think it's beneficial to everything we do at the fairgrounds. The events, having them there would just I know it'd make me sleep better at night. The only thing I'd like to request from the board this morning is when this item becomes a more serious topic, that my board, the MCFA, and myself are allowed to be involved in this topic so we can have some input. Because right now, 95% of our property is actually being used for one thing or another throughout the year, so I would need time to actually restructure a lot of different things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chuck Cox. Or as the form says, Charles Cox. Good morning.
Thank you, Supervisor, Chairman, Madam Chairman Bishop, board members, staff.
Could you state your name and address just for the record?
I am Charles Cox, 6699 Nob Hill Road, Kingman, Arizona. I am the chairman of the board for the Mohave County Fair Association. That takes in all of the property that is around the chain link fence, inside the chain link fence, all over. We are working on a 25-year lease. We are 6 years into it, and we have another 19 years to go. Our information about this transaction has come from our friends at the fire department, who in their regular routine of inspecting the property for upcoming events, for safety and fire infractions, et cetera, et cetera. This was just a conversation to let us know that this was what they were talking about. We have never been approached by anybody, city or county, about their plans on what to do with property under our control. We should be involved in all discussions on that. Now, we have no objection whatsoever, and we applaud the idea of a fire station close by, and they're very handy. They're nice neighbors, they're good to deal with, they're okay. But when we talk about a training facility, this indicates a lot of firefighters who are going to learn how to put out fires. Now, we're right up against I-40, and we're going to build a structure, and the fire department is going to set it on fire, and the firemen are going to learn how to put it out. This black smoke billowing over I-40 is going to cause an awful lot of traffic problems. This also is going to cause smoke that drifts through the neighborhoods, and I think the voters would be very, very concerned about that. Now, the fire department has a full training facility, as far as I can see, right at Station 2. And they own the property from Harrison through the city park, right up to the border of Fairgrounds Boulevard. They also own the entire airport. Does a training facility have to be right at I-40, which causes smoke through the community? I don't know. We enjoy working with the fire department. They are extremely beneficial, helpful folks. I'm through.
You can finish your comment if it's not going to take too long.
No. We would like to work with the fire department. We'd like to work with anyone, but can we be communicated with? I don't like the idea of being ignored, shunned. That's not good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Supervisor Watson, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, we have no intention of ignoring you. We're bringing this item for the education of our other supervisors as no one really had been able to bring this together. So really, this is kind of the first stab at information. We have the representative of the Kingman Fire Department here today, Mr. Keith Eden, and we have the chief here today also. So this is kind of our first stab at information and thought process. So with that, Chief, I'll let you have the floor.
Well, as we started looking earlier this spring, this has been an issue for quite some time, is the reconstruction, remodel of Station 2, as well as the addition of Station 5. And one of the things that I did when I first got here was start looking at run districts and call times and things like that. And one thing we found right away, as was alluded to, is where we respond, our run district is actually cut in half at the current Station 2 by the railroad tracks. So we knew moving off that current location as we reconstruct or remodel was important. And so that's where we started this conversation. If we look at moving that station off of its current location, going the direction of the fairgrounds makes a lot of sense, because there's not a lot of availability of open land, especially 3 acres. If we move that whole facility off its current location, there's not a lot of availability up there. Harrison provides us a good street, good access if we look at call density. I do have one illustration. If we look at it, the yellow there represents the current Station 2, and you can kind of see where it's cut in half by the road tracks. So moving it north is important to us, because it will actually overlap Station 3 a little bit, which is good, because that's where our call density takes place. So we reached out to Jimmy there at the fairgrounds to start that process, and he directed us to Mr. Hendricks. And so we sat down and started having this initial discussion. This has been identified as a priority by our board. Now, there's a lot of steps at council and in the budget process, but we wanted to start this process to see if this was even an option, to see if there was something that we could work out, whether it was, and I like how this is worded, donation, long-term lease, possible land swap, sale, because that's what we're looking at. What are the options that we could look at for 3 acres? Moving the training grounds, as far as burns and things like that, there are regulations that we have to abide by when it comes to smoke. Most of what we use is fake smoke, the little machines, almost like Hollywood smoke, that dissipates in the air rather quickly. The other thing that we use is a flashover trainer, but again, we're so particular when we do burn that with wind conditions and everything else. We don't want any complaints or anything else, especially up close to I-40. I think the land that was identified up on the north end close to I-40 is just an approximate. Any land through there helps us out tremendously, facing Harrison, to where we could exit right on Harrison, have a good way. We could deal with any of that land. But that was our thing, was looking at any possible opportunities and discussions that we might look at. Is it a possibility, or do we need to look elsewhere? So, any questions at all?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am.
Supervisor Angus, do you have any questions? Supervisor Moss?
I don't have any questions. I do think that improving public safety and the fairgrounds is generally a positive idea. So I would like the board to be involved in these discussions, but it sounds like there's some issues, at least on one side of this equation, that need to be addressed. But I think it's a good idea that we should continue pursuing.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Johnson, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions. I like the idea of a land swap. Metcalf Park sounds good to me, and maybe the 3 acres isn't enough, and we could throw in Arnold Plaza. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, my comment is I think when the city and the county work together on safety issues, it's a win for everybody involved. So I think we should go forward and begin these discussions and see what works for you and what works for us. So.
Very totally. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for coming and speaking to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I don't believe there's any action necessary on this. Is that right? Okay, no action taken. Okay, moving on to the next item, number 42. Discussion and possible action reference employee leave programs to include accrual, carryover, and severance payout for new hires and existing employees. Supervisor Angus, this is under your name, so I'll
Yes.
turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we're bringing this back again. I wanted to do this before the end of the year. At last we left, we were going back and forth about a very small amount of discrepancy between what I would like to see, and this is only for new employees, hires. This is not about employees, current employees. And so I want to thank Supervisor Bishop and Supervisor Watson for coming and negotiating. During that last meeting, we spoke about this, and I was a bit inflexible because when I went back and I looked at what was being discussed, I think we were very, very close. And I don't have a problem with the numbers that Supervisor Watson brought while we were doing our little back and forth negotiation. So I wanted to bring it back using those numbers and see if we can get this passed before the end of the year.
Thanks. Thank you. Supervisor Watson?
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I do recall that conversation that we had at the meeting here, but I don't recall it being as described by your proposal, Supervisor Angus. I don't believe that at that meeting that we were talking about 300 hours. I believe that number was 400 hours.
No, it was 300 hours. That was what was brought from the backup material that you had provided, was 300 hours.
Okay. And my only concern on your proposal, on the 4.62 for the first year through year 4, is if we could reduce that to possibly to 1 to 2 years. Would you be willing to come down to 1 to 2 years on that? Just if we get an employee that's going to stay, we know it's going to stay, let's reward that employee.
Okay, yeah, I would.
Okay. So
You know, I thought it would just for administration make sense, you know, year 1 through 4, but if that's what's going to do it, I would be amenable to that.
With that, I could support it.
Okay, so we now kind of have to go back and make the change on what Supervisor Watson just said. So I can't do the math in my head. So you're going to...
Can I make a suggestion?
Supervisor Moss, yes, please do.
I really want to compliment Supervisor Angus for evaluating her position, and I also want to compliment Supervisor Watson for his position. My recollection was there was like 300 hours, and then there was a start point that we were going to take from Supervisor Angus, but we were going to modify it to Supervisor Watson's duration, which is the 1 to 2 year period of time, as opposed to the 3 to 4 year period of time. The end number was the same for both, and we were going to accept Supervisor Watson's 2 intermediary points. That's my recollection. And to make sure we do this correctly, I think it'd be nice if we had Mr. Cunningham write it up and bring it back to us for the first meeting in January, so we can so everyone can know exactly what we're agreeing to, because I think we do have an agreement. But I don't want there to be any misunderstandings because people's memories fade even over a few weeks, and I really think it would be a bad thing if one group or the other group thought they were agreeing to something that they didn't wind up actually agreeing to. So, but that's because my recollection was both Supervisor Watson and Angus had the same endpoint. They were both in agreement on 300 hours as the bank size and the cash out size, and they were both in agreement as to the they had worked out an agreement on the beginning points, and I think we've done that, and that we were going to accept Supervisor Watson's 2 intermediate points, because there was 4 tiers, if I remember, depending on the seniority of the employee. That's all I have.
Okay, because we have the first, our current PTO schedule, it's through year one and then starting on year two. So, but what I believe Supervisor Watson's had, there were only 4 different, and it was year 3 through 5. And then, but anyway, I guess we do have to go back. I really didn't want to go back to do this and bring it back again, but to make sure everyone understands it and no one feels like they were, misled, I would be okay with that, but to bring it back.
And it would be, we could make it effective our first meeting in January, which I think is January 2nd or 4th. So it really is the beginning of the year. And I think sacrificing a couple of days to make sure it's done properly, that's the way to go. So if Mr. Cunningham can take on board what was said at this last meeting and this meeting and bring it back to us in a one-page format, I think everyone would feel a lot more comfortable and we could put this behind us.
Okay, that would be fine with me. And I also want to say, I'm glad you brought up the carryover. One of the reasons from day one we were given about the carryover being so is because that we had taken away short-term disability, which we have put back. Every employee now gets short-term disability. And so that was the thought process in all of that. So, and with that, I'll just make a motion to bring this back at the first meeting of January.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Supervisor Johnson, did you have any comments that you wanted to add before we vote? Supervisor
No,
Johnson?
Madam Chair, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It takes me a while to get off mute. I'm sorry about that.
We couldn't understand you. Can you say that again, please?
I said it takes me a while to get off mute. No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Going on to item number 43, discussion of possible action, Ray, going to a zero-based budget for year 2017. This was continued by the board at our August 17th, September 8th, September 21st, and December 7th meeting. So this is under your name, Supervisor Johnson, and I'll let you have the floor on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Vice President did a fine job of putting information together. I was really looking for the mandated versus non-mandated services that we provide. I don't believe that we got the total amount of cost of non-mandated services because people are saying, oh, it doesn't cost any money to do it. Next year, as we all know, is going to be a tough year with the budget, and we're looking at, I think one that stands out is the courts. With drug courts, they say, well, it doesn't cost any money, we have to have a court. And I have 2 problems with that. The first problem is we're making a special class of people and treating them differently than we are the regular person who goes in. I do see in the paper where they have judges who are assigned to drug courts, so to me that means there's other, they're taken away from the jobs that we're paid for. But it was more of an information thing that I wanted to bring forward to the board members so they could see how much money we were spending on things that were not required by state statute. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
May
much.
I make a comment, Madam Chair?
Supervisor Moss, you certainly can.
Yes, I want to first compliment Supervisor Johnson for gathering that information. I think it is good information to have and will assist us in going forward. I do view it as being only the starting point in inquiries, but I also want to caution that I think that some of these non-mandated services, not all, but some, are of critical importance. For example, we just discussed the drug court issue. The drug court issue is a pilot program. Yes, judges are assigned to the drug court occasionally, just like judges are assigned to the criminal courts, the dependency courts, the delinquency courts, the family courts, and all the probate courts, all the other little bifurcations the courts set up. The drug court, as a test program, if you will, throughout the United States, has proven to be enormously successful. And I believe what the courts are saying when they say it doesn't cost anything because we have to do it anyway, is that one way or the other, the courts would be dealing with these people who are the criminally accused. The difference between whether we just simply incarcerate them and forget about it, or whether we have the courts monitor and insist upon treatment and testing, and the different results that come out of that is the differences are amazing. The percentages of rehabilitation out of the drug court are very, very high compared to the percentages that we simply warehouse, and they fall back into their same problems. So this is a discussion to have. I think we should have it as the budget process goes forward. But I would just like to say, since the drug court was called out, that I think that's been a remarkably successful program, and I would be loath to cut it if there was any way to avoid doing that. And that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. Supervisor Watson, did you want to add anything?
I'd like to clear some fogginess, I think, that I've got here.
Okay, please do.
Continue to have on this issue of zero-based budgeting, and I'd like if we could have our finance director, Lloyd, take the podium. And I guess what my problem is we're calling what we're doing zero-based budgeting, but I don't believe that is the case. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. This was really providing a program inventory, if you will, by listing trying as best as we could this first round anyway, by listing the various programs that departments could identify by either mandated, essential, or discretionary. And then also putting those in units, accounting units of personnel, supplies and services, internal services, capital, identifying transfers. So zero-based is definitely going a lot further in detail for each of the line items to describe what is within each of those line items.
Thank you. I guess I'd feel more comfortable in identifying what we're doing by a different name other than zero-based budgeting, because
It's misleading.
it's misleading. I'd like to see, let's name what it is. If it's a zebra, let's call it a zebra. If it's whatever. But if it's not zero-based budgeting, then that's not what we're doing. And I'd hate to mislead some other form of government down the road thinking that's what we're doing.
I believe initially that the agenda item, when it was first brought up, was a discussion that initiated on the zero base, and I think it was just carried over for each of the meetings.
So what would be a good name for what we're doing?
I would call it program for this
Program budgeting?
for this exercise. Mhm.
And I've got no problem with it. I think it's producing some great results. I just wanted to identify it properly.
Okay, well, I wanted to thank you, Ms. Lloyd, for putting together the list of services that we provide that are not mandated, and it was very, very telling that there's not a lot of general fund money going out to non-mandated services. We get a lot of grants, and I appreciate all the grant money that we do receive, but this kind of puts it in black and white in a picture that's easy to digest. So I thank you for that, and as we go into the next budget year, we'll be looking at everything very closely, and I got to say, I'm not looking forward to it, but it's a job that we were elected to do, and I take pride in doing that job. So thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I think that the reason we're starting here, because again, like a lot of things we do, it's been drug on for a while, and it was started with zero-based budgeting, and whether or not it would work for Mohave County. And correct me if I'm wrong, Supervisor Johnson, we thought this would be the best way to start, really, to see what programs are mandated, see really the discretionary money that we have. And I want to thank you for putting that together. And, we've been hearing a lot about zero-based budgeting in government. During the presidential election, Carly Fiorina talked about it a lot, that really is a lot of local governments are moving towards that. And I think she used a great term. She used something like, you prove and you move. Like, you have to prove every dollar that you spend, and then you can move it to where you need for it to go, and that elected boards should have that ability. And I think that is the aim. It's just how we get there. Right. And if it will work for our, the specific needs of our county. So I think this was a really good start. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And Supervisor Angus is right. I think because we've had such a downturn in the economy and we've slashed the county budget for so long that there's not a lot of fat left anywhere to be cut, if we could even find any, except for maybe programs that we're doing that aren't mandated. And right now, I think zero-based budgeting would be a tough one to do. If we just looking at non-mandated things that we're doing, we can look at those. But as the budgets grow, zero-based budgeting does help, like Supervisor Angus said, because then we just don't have a department coming back and saying, well, I had 20 employees last year, I need 22 this year. They have to verify that or justify that they need new employees or that they need to keep the 20 that they had. That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. All right. Does anybody else have any other comments? Supervisor Watson?
I guess I'm looking for clarification. Are we going to call this going to program budgeting, or are we going? What do we need to do?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Supervisor Johnson. Go ahead.
I mean, it was my item, and hopefully it wasn't just been carried over so many times, and the wording has changed. I don't think we're looking for giving any direction to staff at this point. When we do come back for budget time, then, I mean, a supervisor could say, you know, I make a motion to have zero-based budgeting, or I saw something in the report that was given to us in December, and I'd like to address that issue. But I don't think any direction is needed today. At least I wasn't looking for any direction. It was more of an informational thing, Supervisor Watson.
Okay. Answers my question.
All right. Well, if there's no further discussion, thank you, Ms. Lloyd, and this will be a no-action item for now. Okay, moving on to item number 44, discussion of possible action reference adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution number 2015-190 opposing all forms of school and cyberbullying and encourage the Arizona state legislation to strengthen laws and mandated school policies that may aid in the protecting of our youth here in Mohave County. So, Supervisor Angus.
Okay. I have something to say, and how many here are pro-bullying?
Are what?
Pro-bullying. Pro. I mean, we're about to vote on a resolution saying that we're against bullying. Is there anyone who's for bullying? You know, this is going to sound sort of bad because we had an incident here in Kingman, a tragic incident, and my heart breaks for the family. But I want to talk about these resolutions and what they really mean. Okay? So when we pass these resolutions, they sound good. It's a way of governments to make points and talk about things and make it sound like we're doing something about things that maybe we can't even do anything about. But what happens is these resolutions go to Phoenix, they go to the governor, and they go to our legislators, and they can use them when they get ready to pass more laws saying, see, Mohave County, they want stronger laws. Coconino, they want stronger laws. And the fact of the matter is that I believe that this is something that is not a legal issue. I think it is a spiritual and moral issue. And we actually do have laws on the books that a very strong law, ARS 15-341, the obligation of schools. It starts, I won't read the whole thing, there are 10 very specific points. And that statute starts, Arizona law requires schools to enact and enforce policies and procedures that prohibit students from harassing, intimidating, and bullying other students on school property or school buses and at school-sponsored activities or events through the use of electronic technology, communications, networks, forums, or mailing lists. It goes on to say, such policies must include, it doesn't say can, it doesn't even say shall, it says it must include, and then there are 10, I won't go through, but it goes 10 bullet points of exactly, it gives them a guide on what to do. So the law is there, and we as a society and the schools and parents have to take our part in it. And just to keep giving it, that's our problem. We keep giving it to government because we can't seem to deal with these problems on our own. And to me, the biggest bully is the government. And I don't want to give them more power. and more arms in their arsenal to go after us. And I believe that this is what all these well-intentioned, and they're all well-intentioned, good people wanting to do good things, but I think it is misguided, and I wanted to make that explanation because I'm not going to be voting for this resolution, and I wanted to tell you that I'm not pro-bullying, I'm just anti-more laws. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak on this resolution?
This is Stephen Moss, Chairman.
All right, Supervisor
I want
Moss.
to say what Supervisor Angus said, but from a slightly different perspective. I believe there was included on the backup some statutes regarding bullying, which is already illegal in Arizona. And I read a bit of law here and there, and it's been my understanding that as we attempt to strengthen these anti-bullying laws, we frequently begin, not us, but various government agencies, begin to run afoul of the First Amendment. And that was generally my concern. This bullying and what occurred is already illegal. With people who did it should be appropriately punished considering all the facts and circumstances. I'm not certain I'm asking for more consequences, more sanctions, more laws would be productive, and I do think that we could eventually cross the lines in what I consider what's one of our most important fundamental rights. I do think this is a noble goal and a noble effort, and I think it's more of an educational point that we need to make now because the laws already exist. We just need to start educating ourselves and our communities and our schools and our students exactly what the bounds of proper conduct are and then hold them accountable once they cross it. But that's all mine. But I really want to say I really do understand where this is coming from. I believe it's noble. I don't think calling for more laws and more consequences is a good thing, and I really don't want to edge closer and closer to prohibiting speech which could affect First Amendment issues. That's all my take on it.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Johnson, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's the same thing. It's a noble cause, and I still have the same thing about doing a resolution thing. Give Supervisor Angus credit because a lot of times we do all these resolutions at the beginning of meetings, and they don't seem to mean much. So that's all I had, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. And Supervisor Watson?
Just a comment that it was a horrible tragedy that happened in Kingman to this young lady. Really feel sorry for the family and for those that are involved. This type of cyberbullying is a concept that's very difficult for a lot of us to kind of put our arms around. And like many have said, this is a noble effort, but what good is it going to do? Until we can convince society and culture to treat people as they would like to be treated, then we're going to be putting up with people like doing this. So it's more of a cultural issue that I think than it is for a legal issue for us to be looking at for us today. So if you insist on putting through the resolution, I'll support it. If you'd like to withdraw it, I'll honor that too.
Well, that puts me in a difficult position because I am the one that wrote this resolution, and I think we have plenty of laws on the books, and I'm not a big supporter of making more laws and regulating people's movements, but I have seen in our society where parents are not being responsible for their children, and the government has been stepping in to kind of do some of the parenting. And my thought with this resolution was to just remind our schools and our law leaders that sometimes parents need a little more help, especially when they're given electronic devices to elementary school children, and the parents are working and not paying attention to what's being put on social media. So I do think it's a good resolution. I think it's a good reminder. I don't think it's making new laws. The last paragraph in the resolution says that we, as the Board of Supervisors, would encourage the Arizona state legislation to strengthen laws and mandate the development of school policies that may aid in protecting the youth of Mohave County. But as I can see from my fellow supervisors, I do not have support in this, so I'll withdraw the resolution, sadly. All right, so I don't think we need a motion on that. We'll go on now to item number 45. Discussion of possible action, Ray, approve amending contract number 07-P-05, Davis Camp Personnel Watercraft Rentals to Best Jet Watercraft Rentals, Laughlin, Nevada, extending the contract for an additional 3-year period from June 18th, 2016 through June 17th, 2019, removing kayak rentals and modifying the rental rates with all other terms and conditions remaining the same, and authorize the procurement director to sign the amendment and report the monthly procurement activity report on behalf of Public Works Department. So we have Ms. Annie that would like to speak on this. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Supervisors, good morning.
Good morning.
We put this on the regular agenda so to give the supervisors a chance to discuss this. This item was brought back because we had the contracted vendor come to us and want to renew a little bit early. It's a long-term contract. If it goes, the full effect of the contract would be a 15-year period. We're currently in the second 3-year renewal period, which will terminate on June 17th of 2016. Staff is actually recommending that we do renew it. The vendor wants to buy additional equipment to ramp up and get ready for the summer season coming up, and that's why he came to us early, so that he can go ahead and get his ordering done, so that he can have newer equipment that's going to be available to the public that wishes to rent the equipment from him. So I'm available for any questions that you might have regarding this contract.
Okay, I think Supervisor Angus has a question.
I do. I just sort of this year got to understand the way that all works down there in Davis Camp, and it's kind of a monopoly, isn't it? I mean, there's this one place, and if you go and you drive into Davis Camp and you want to rent a jet ski, you can only rent it from this one vendor. You can't, there's a lot of different vendors on Highway 95, and you can't go and rent a jet ski from them because they're not allowed to bring it in. So I have a little bit of an issue with that because it is considerably more expensive to rent at Davis Camp. And once you're there, you're kind of stuck. If that was it, you bring your family and it's your day down at the river, and then you go, and I mean, it's as much as 3 times higher, and you're not allowed to go out and do that. And was that ever discussed before when this first came? Because I know this vendor's been there for a long time. I know the county makes some money from this. Is that one of the reasons? But I want to ask I'm glad it was brought up because I've been thinking about it, because like my son came with his family and he said, Hildy, it was pretty expensive there, and why can't I go out and rent it somewhere else? So can you just explain that thought process?
I might have the Public Works Director come up here and explain it, but I'm not aware that you can only rent there at Davis Camp. We did the contract, we went out and did a request for proposal back in 2007, so all of the vendors that were interested in setting up this business with, there at Davis Camp had the same opportunity at that time. The reason we went into the longer multi-year contract was because of the startup costs in getting the equipment that was going to be needed, to rent here. But like I said, I'm not aware that you can't rent that type of equipment further on down the river.
This is Steve Moss. May I make a comment or question?
Yes, we've got Steve Lukowski at the podium, but go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, this seems to be a pretty big thing, because if they can't bring a rented jet ski into Davis Camp, I might have some issues with this. So I was going to suggest we continue it to the next meeting until we can review it, because I did not review it for whether or not it was an anti-competition agreement. I just reviewed it to see whether or not we were just doing the same old, we just accelerated things. So this may need to be looked at slightly more closely, or maybe Mr. Witowski can answer the question for me. for us.
Well, maybe,
Madam Chair?
We have Mr. Lukowski at the podium, and we also have the owner of the jet ski company that would like to speak. So Supervisor Johnson, go ahead with your question.
I think I have no problem with the continuation like Supervisor Moss requests. But I think part of it is when we have a vendor on our property, they have to have insurance and a lot of things that the private vendor really someplace else doesn't. And I don't know that, I mean, anybody can drag a jet ski in and use it off the beach, or they can, I'm guessing they can go rent one someplace else and bring it in because we wouldn't know. We just don't allow somebody to come up there and rent off our property because of the liabilities. And that's where maybe we're requiring somebody to have more insurance and then having the exclusivity. So I'm guessing that could be what part of the increased price is.
maybe it's a little misunderstanding. Is it true that if I wanted to go to Davis Camp, I can't, can I rent from A1 Jet Ski and have them come, you know, because they come in and then they have to launch it and then they have to pick it up. I've never really seen that at Davis Camp. And I've been told, I could be wrong, but I've been told that they're not allowed.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Angus, excellent question. Yes, there is an exclusivity clause in the watercraft rentals agreement, only on the basis of another vendor operating out of Davis Camp. However, any of our patrons have their own exclusive right to bring their own jet ski in, or any jet ski rented from a third party.
A jet ski company in Bullhead City can go in with their trucks in their names and launch there. Because see, there's the rub. Because they have to tow that jet ski down in their vehicles, then they come and pick them up. And so, yeah, people can bring their own, but you would be saying that if people rented from a different company, then they would have to bring it themselves, that the company could not bring it in their vehicles, in their trucks.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Angus, to the best of my understanding, the business must be conducted off-site, but any and all activities related to obtaining the rented jet ski are permitted at Davis Camp. So in short, we do not allow, because we have this contract with Best Jets, for outside vendors to actively solicit business at Davis Camp. However, if that business has been conducted and executed off-site and it's just a means of providing for or retrieving, say, a damaged or broken down watercraft, that vendor does have the opportunity to assist their patron. So they can accommodate the patron, assist their patron as far as launching and or retrieving a jet ski. Where we have to draw the line is conducting business within the park. And we have that very similar agreement when we operated the snack bar. It was the same thing with regard to permanent vendors being allowed in the park.
Okay, I think that it's unclear. I think because people have been told that they're not allowed to. So I would like to somehow make that and I think there are a lot of people who don't think they can. They're allowed to.
Supervisor Angus, I believe the confusion was difference between are they on an active service call or are they not on a service call?
Oh, you mean just hanging around soliciting business?
Hanging around soliciting business,
Okay.
busy summer weekend. And
that I understand.
We've been going gangbusters all summer long, every weekend, and to have, vendors from the outside just soliciting business, that's something we have to draw a line on. So that may be the confusion.
If I go to a jet ski company on Highway 95, they can bring that jet ski in on their vehicles, launch it, and then pick me up. No, see, he's saying.
Well,
Can I approach the stand and answer your first question regarding pricing?
Actually, I would like to hear from the owner of Best Jets. Is that who you are, sir?
Yes, I'm the owner of Best Jets.
Yeah, please enlighten us.
Okay. Well, first of all, good morning, supervisors. To address your issue that I'm substantially more expensive than the competition.
Excuse me, what is your name?
My name's Kevin Valenzano, and my address is 3341 North Ridge in Bullhead.
Thank you.
I try to be the most competitive that I can. If you search worldwide jet ski rental prices, you're going to find between $300 and $600 a day for the jet ski. Commonly, it's $100 an hour, and that is having to do with the costs associated with the business. Other places in town that you're comparing me to, you might have seen the signs down the highway saying $75 all day. That's a gimmick. If you Google search Laughlin jet ski scams, it's a big deal going on right now that they lure you in with the cheap price, and by the end of the day, you're spending $1,000 with them.
Right. I understand some of the problems that are going on, but there's quite a few companies there and that are very, very
comparable to my
reputable.
price.
Yes.
Yes. All of the places that are down the highway that are comparable to my price are legitimate companies that you pay what you expect to pay at the end of the day. I could name off a list of them. They're not all bad businesses, but the ones specifically with the $75 all-day signs on the highway, they're all known to lure you in and get you at the end. And the reason they do that, they make considerable amount higher income than I do. And it's because mine is fixed with the county. I have a contract or scheduled rates, and I've been lowering them, doing daily specials, and having that approved so that I can remain competitive in the industry. Places down the road, like for example, my business is built on honesty and integrity. I have a list right here of compliments, nothing but compliments.
I was not making any, implication about your business practices at all. My concern is that we give people choices on where to go, and that as a county, as a government entity, we're not keeping out other businesses and permitting them to do business on our property. I don't mean soliciting. I'm just saying in their normal businesses, they cannot launch from Davis Camp.
Under the current
agreement, and I
Yes,
have a
and
little
it's the
bit of a
same-
problem with that.
It's the same thing at any hotel that offers jet ski rentals. It's the same if you go to Lake Mohave. Lake Mohave is a huge body of water, but there's only one company allowed to do business on that whole lake. I cannot deliver skis to Lake Mohave, however I would wish to do so, because it's an incredible, it's deeper, it's warmer. There's not, 300 people coming up behind you, going in front of you. I just simply can't because of the structure of their contract with the marina. That's a state contract, not a county contract, so you guys can't do anything about that, but it is the way contracts are run. When someone does invest all of their time and money into fulfilling the contract terms, they kind of expect to have the exclusive agreement, because else I could be someone else down the highway delivering skis there too with the $75 all-day sign, and I just simply couldn't put myself to do that. I run a very fair business. I know you weren't questioning that, but every one of my customers is happy paying that price, and the only complaints I've ever received is from competition wanting to step in on the contract. There is a deal at every single hotel, and if I went to every hotel and said, hey, your customers are asking me to deliver skis there, they would tell me, we have a contract with this company and there's nothing we could do about that. Without making a contract, setting those guidelines, then there's no incentive to make improvements on the land. I mean, I've built the building there, I've invested everything myself. I don't rent that building, I built it. I was required to follow a list of rules, and I followed every single rule.
This really isn't about, this may sound, but this isn't really about you. It's just about the way the county structures this. And I just wanted some explanation, and I'm sorry
But
if
it
it
also-
sounds like it's an attack, because it's not.
Well, it does
And I know you
actually
do.
provide, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
I didn't-
and I know you do provide, it provides a
It-
service. I'm happy, we had a concession down there that didn't work out, because I don't think that the county helped them as much as they should have. And I know that there's a necessity. My only issue is because we're not a private company, we're a government, that we're doing things completely correctly, and that there's no perception of favoritism or that, and just as a free market person, I like competition, that's all.
This contract was requested for proposal, and the competition did have an ability to write a proposal and get granted what I got granted. What this book is also full of is every single person in there saying that they will be back, and when they do come back, they're going to expect to have someone reputable in the park. And again, I'm not saying that all jet ski rental companies are not reputable, but when the county kind of endorses a company, it kind of shows the reputation the company must have. And it gives someone a direction to go when they see all these things online saying, oh, careful, don't rent a jet ski in Bullhead because you'll get ripped off. If they go to someone who's exclusively contracted by the county, they can be assured that they're going to get well taken care of.
Okay, that's all. I mean, we don't have to go on. I just wanted to bring this up because it was of concern and it was brought up to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, do any of the supervisors have any other questions for Director Lukowski or for Ms. Annie Furth?
I would like to point out something as well. When we did bid this out in 2007, there were 3 total proposals that we did receive, and the evaluators determined that Best Jets was the best proposal out of all, and that considered pricing as well as experience and his plan that he gave to us as part of his method of approach. And also the contract itself states for competition, while this contract is in force and effect, the county shall issue no other permits for personal watercraft rentals at Davis Camp Park. So, I mean, I could open it up to ask for a legal opinion from County Attorney Bill Ekstrom, but, you know, our understanding is that while a patron can bring in their own, you know, watercraft vehicle to use there, or even somebody that rents it outside of the camp itself, they could bring it in. But we will not issue any permits to any other vendors that could come into the park.
And that was just my original question.
Okay.
Can another vendor on the highway, can they bring it in and launch it and pick up the customer? So where are we leaving it? Are we going to get a legal opinion on that?
Madam Chair, Supervisor Angus, it may be prudent to obtain a legal opinion just on this clause, but the way that we saw it was that we would not, the operative word here is permit, and permit means, from our position, that it's permitting another vendor coming into the park and doing business in the park.
And just to be
Where
clear,
Best Jets, we allow them exclusive advertising in the park. No other vendor is allowed to
And just to be clear, so there's no, we get a cut of, we get some money from this too.
Yes.
We get a percentage.
We have a commission that comes
All
back
right,
to
so
us.
that has to be thrown out there in the mix too.
Correct.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong, just it's all part of the picture.
Attorney Ekstrom, can you give a legal opinion on that, please? Or do you need time? Do you
There's
need
any
to
number
table-
of collateral issues. I can say that we reviewed the contract, participated in procurement, and determined at that point in time that it was an appropriate procurement for a variety of reasons. So that's what I know. Now, as far as what the actual practice is on site, whether Company Z down the road can just pull in and lease or rent these vehicles, I don't know without looking at the agreement, but it would seem inconsistent with our plan, which was to provide a quality service to people visiting Davis Camp.
Okay, well, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Let's make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion to approve by Supervisor Johnson, seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Did you get that, Jenny? Okay, could we have all those opposed say aye again?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have Supervisor Moss and Supervisor Angus opposed. And I will vote yea. Okay, next item, Number 46, discussion of possible action, Ray, approve contract amendment 2 to contract number DE14-052731, intergovernmental agreement between the State of Arizona, Department of Economic Security and Mohave County for FY15 Workforce Investment Act, Youth, Adult, and Dislocated Worker Rapid Response, decreasing the reimbursement ceiling from $3,070,940 to $2,150,465 on obligate for your funding of $920,475 to be added to the contract number DI16-002116 and revise the termination date of DE14-052731 from June 30th, 2018 to December 31st, 2016. Wow.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve and a second by Supervisor Angus. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item number 47, very similar. Discussion and possible action reference approved contract amendment 1 to contract number DI16002116, intergovernmental agreement between the State of Arizona, Department of Economic Security, and Mohave County for your 15/16 Workforce Innovative and Opportunity Act, Youth, Adult, Dislocated Worker Rapid Response Fund from an increase of $920,475 from $1,564,261 to $2,484,736 for contract period July 1, 2015 through June 20th, 2020.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 48, discussion of possible action reference approve the county conducting and supporting an election to be held on May 19, 2016, at which 5 individuals will be elected to the Lake Mohave Ranchos Grapevine Mesa Fire District Board of Directors. So I think we have Mr. John Flynn here this morning. If there's any questions from any of the supervisors. Mr. Flynn, would you give us an update on this election and anything you'd like us to know going forward?
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. John Flynn, the administrator for the Lake Mohave Ranchos Fire District. Subsequent to the consolidation effort with the Northern Arizona Consolidated Fire District that did not go through, the next step to go from the administrator, now the district solvent, is back to a board, and so I would request that the Board of Supervisors would call for a special election for those 5, for the 5 board members.
I have questions, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Johnson, you have the floor.
I guess my first question, Mr. Flynn, would be the board's what got us into this problem, so you're saying we just turn it back over to another board and we're going to have the same conclusion?
Chair and Supervisors, to Supervisor Johnson's point, the district is an independent special taxing district and is basically administered and governed by an independent board elected from the residents and property taxpayers in that district, and that's the way the law establishes those districts to be run. So, and unfortunately, a combination of what was going on previous in 2012 and early 2013 with that board and the economy kind of came together and forced that district into being financially insolvent. So the law does allow, when that board all resigned, that the Board of Supervisors appointed administrator, which was me, and then we turned that district around so that now it's financially solvent, but we're mandated to return it to either an independently elected board, which would be why we're going to go to a special election, or that it be consolidated or merged with another district. And since that's off the table, the only thing left to do now would be to call for the special election and put 5 new members in there as the governing board and turn it back to an independent special taxing district.
Do we not have the authority to disband it or to have an election to see if those people even still want to be in a fire district?
Chair and members, supervisors, to Supervisor Johnson's question, the process to dissolve a fire district mirrors the process to form a fire district. So a citizen or a property taxpayer would come to the Board of Supervisors with a petition, well, with a request to dissolve the district, and would have to provide an impact statement in regards to the benefits of dissolving the district and the detriments to dissolving the district. And then at that point, the Board of Supervisors would set a hearing, not less than 30 days, but no more than 60 days after that was presented to the board, to hear the taxpayers' comments, both for and against. In the meantime, the Board of Supervisors would need to send by first-class mail notice of that hearing to every property taxpayer in the district. You would hold the hearing. At that point, if the Board of Supervisors felt that the issue had merit to dissolve the district, that they would allow for the person or persons who submitted the impact statement to circulate petitions to dissolve the district amongst the property taxpayers in the district, and that would require 50% plus one of all the property owners and 50% plus one of all the property value holders in the district agreeing by signing the petition that they wanted the district dissolved. And they'd have a year to do that. They'd bring those petitions back. The clerk of the board would vet those petitions, make sure that all the signatures were valid. If they had enough, then the Board of Supervisors would act. And I would refer you to Mr. Ekstrom, who probably knows a lot more about this.
So your answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if your answer is no, then I think my last question, unless you have something that comes up, is how much do you, as a fire district right now, owe Mohave County?
Chair, Supervisors, to Supervisor Johnson's question, we don't owe the county anything right now. The district is in a cash positive position, and we anticipate that we will continue in a cash positive position. We're working with Wells Fargo to secure a revolving line of credit to ensure that when we have low cash, that we can manage our cash flow effectively. But the district finished last fiscal year in the black, so they're solvent, and we anticipate, and we don't have any indication that we won't finish this fiscal year in the black. And so that would be my answer, sir.
Okay, so but at the last meeting you paid us back $250,000 right before the meeting, and you haven't borrowed any more money, so you're running on all tax dollars right now, correct?
Chair and Supervisor, I didn't understand that question. Could you repeat that, Supervisor Johnson?
At the last meeting, right before the meeting, the fire district paid back the county $250,000 to come even. So as of today, no other tax money from Mohave County is being used to or has been loaned to the fire district to pay their bills. You're running strictly on your own now.
Chair, Supervisors, that's correct.
I have no problems then. Thank you.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? Supervisor Watson?
Just a quick question, and thank you very much, Mr. Flynn, for a great job you've done with that district. What is the budget for that district, for the proposed budget for the next year? The dollar amount?
Chair, Supervisors, it runs right, I don't have the figure right in front of me, it's about $1.1 million. So, but please be aware that that $1.1 million includes grant funds, and so we have not been very successful in receiving grants. We've received a little bit, but not much. So actually, we operate right at about just over $750,000 a year.
Okay, and your taxing revenue is equal to that amount?
Chair and Supervisor Watson, no. The taxing revenue runs just right at about $500,000, and the rest of the funds that come in are generated by fees from the ambulance service the district provides in that area.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the questions that I had.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Angus, do you have any questions? Thank you. Supervisor Moss, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. I just want to compliment Mr. Flynn for doing a very good job.
All right, thank you, and I'll echo that as well. Thank you very much. You've done an excellent job, and it looks like the the election will be coming up, and hopefully we'll get 5 new board members, and things will go forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Supervisor Moss,
I'll second the motion.
seconded by Supervisor Watson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you very much, Chairman Bishop.